All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to QB Talks. I am Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant, and I will be your host for today. Okay, so now before we start, as usual, you guys know that I like to go ahead and ask for question of the day, just as everybody's kind of coming in and settling down in front of your computers, your phones, or your tablets, what have you. Okay, so guys, to those already with us in the room, you guys feel free to answer. Okay, so Alicia, and we're very special
Uh-huh.
guests today also. So the question of the day would be, give me a style and or a fashion trend that you may or may not have participated in that you absolutely regret or would hate to see come back.
Well, I've never been known for my fashion sense. I've always been kind of a jeans and t-shirts kind of gal. And I know that we're in kind of the world of skinny jeans right now, but for me, that's like muffin top central. So I'm big on flares. I love flare jeans. My jeans always have wide feet. So I think it's kind of the
Love them
reversal of
too.
your question. But skinny jeans for me would be right out. I don't think anybody should wear skinny jeans.
Okay, personally, like a trend that really hit hard for me was the whole eyebrow thing, the pencil eyebrows in the 2000s. That was the worst because as like I was, of course, younger and I wanted to be in a part of it. So as the younger me, I took a pair of scissors and kind of I did not know that I was supposed to pluck them. So my mom caught me red-handed and there was a huge chunk missing from my eyebrow. So that
Like
was not great. Yep.
cutting your eyebrows? Oh my.
Yeah. Well, not like straight through the middle, just like the top because like I had really big bushy eyebrows because my dad had bushy eyebrows. I got it. Ah, jeans. Okay. All right. Oh, we love parachute pants. I'm good. We got into parachute pants. Okay, well, guys, let's go ahead and stop the nostalgia and get started. All right, again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to QB Talks. Again, I'm Cheska Cordero from Insightful Accountant, and this QB Talks will be talking about QB Live assisted bookkeeping with the wonderful Alicia Katz Pollock and two very special guests. We have Ted Callahan and Zenubia Madhani with us. You got that right? Okay, now I'll hand this off to them in just a little bit after I cover a few of the housekeeping items. Now, you know, CPE is being offered for this session, but you have to be in the session for at least 50 minutes and you have to answer three of our polling questions. Now, if you have any questions specifically, please enter them in the Q&A panel and remember to be specific. You can't just say, hey, what you mean? You got to ask, hey, Alicia, hey, Ted, hey, Zenubia, what do you mean by you do not like skinny jeans? You do not like parachute pants? Mainly because they might not get to your question right after you put it in there. Okay, and we'll also be sending you a copy of the slide deck and a link to the recording after the webinar. And it's also going to be up on our YouTube page within about 24 hours. So if you want to go check that out over there, along with many other webinars that we've done in the past that might be of interest to you. I'll be putting that link to our YouTube channel into our chat as well. And also do not forget that we have many webinars for you every month, whether you're interested in practice management, marketing, everything tax, or all things QuickBooks. Insightful Accountant's got something for you. Now you can check out all of our webinars that are available to you over on our educational webinars page on our site. And do not worry, I'll also be putting that link into our chat as well. And speaking of webinars, mark your calendars for Insightful Accountant's Future Forward integrations and workflows next week on May 21st to 22nd, and get ready for 8 exciting webinars over 2 days, where each is eligible for a CPE certificate. Don't miss out on this opportunity to enhance your skills and stay ahead in the industry. So register if you haven't already. Now, if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, join the tens of thousands of accounting professionals who rely on Insightful Accountant to keep them up to date on news and updates impacting today's accounting professional. I'll be rolling out all those links for you and the copy of the slide deck throughout the webinar in case you might have missed it. So watch out for that in the chats. And also, please answer the post-webinar survey that will pop up after the webinar so that we over at Insightful Accountant and our hosts as well can further improve our webinars and really give you guys what you want. All right, then. Well, Alicia, Ted, Zenubia, that is it for me. Welcome and thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you so much, Cheska. And thank you, Insightful Accountant, for all you do. So in today's edition of QB Talks, I have invited Ted Callahan and Zenobia Madani to come and talk to us about this new service that QB Live is offering. And we also have Kim Amsbaugh in the background, and she will be answering questions in the chat. Now, the way that we're going to be doing the interactivity today, you can, the chat in the Zoom should be used for chattering and conversation amongst yourselves. If you have questions that you would like me to include in the conversation with Ted and Zenobia, go ahead and put them in the Q&A pane. We will do our best to address them as best we can. So, our learning objectives for today is to find out about this new QB Live Expert Assisted Bookkeeping program. They had a webinar about it a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely got people's attention. And so we wanted to let everybody know what it is and address concerns about it and create a conversation about it. So we're going to take a look at why it exists, what pain points does it solve in our industry. And then this is also serving as a forum for Intuit to hear feedback from you about your ideas and your considerations. And I also want this to be really productive and forwarding to brainstorm ideas on how to ensure a win-win outcome for Intuit, for us, and for our clients. So that's the intention for today. So a little bit about me. I am, in addition to being the owner of RoyalWise.com, I teach QuickBooks pretty much day in and day out, and I have a whole QBO library and provide QBO coaching services to clients and bookkeepers and portals for CPA firms. I'm also the co-host of the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast with Hector Garcia, and you can find that on your favorite podcasting app. And I'm the top 50 women in accounting from Ignition and a top 10 pro advisor from Insightful Accountant. So I've been doing this a long time, and I love talking about all things QuickBooks, which is why we're all here today. And I would like to introduce Ted Callahan as well. Ted, do you want to introduce yourself, or should I do the honors?
It's always fun to have somebody else introduce me. So yeah, you go ahead, Alicia.
Okay. So Ted's position is the director of the accountant segment in the small business self-employed group at Intuit. And basically, when I think of the ProAdvisor program, I think of Ted. So he's the one who represents our voices as bookkeepers and accountants in the QuickBooks organization so that they can make sure that the product is meeting our needs as well as client needs. Is that accurate?
Yep, I think you nailed it. The way I think about the role, it's really looking out to the community and making sure right through forums like this. So thanks again for having all of us on with you today. It's to make sure the community understands why we Intuit are doing what we're doing, as well as the what. And what I find is the community, when we don't communicate why, I think the community kind of conjectures about what is Intuit doing, right? For better and for worse. And I think when we provide the why, you all can actually help us get closer to the mark of what we're trying to accomplish. Because invariably with software, we launch something, we're in the midst of making it better. It's your input that helps us make it better. So then that's the second part of the role, which is bringing all of that feedback through all the different channels, right? Through things like this, through like our accountant council, which we ran last week, as well as big, events like QuickBooks Connect, and then all of our in-product surveys to bring that input back, synthesize that, and then say, hey, where can we actually do better for the customers that we want to serve through the critical voice that the accountants play, because you all are on a first name basis with all of our shared customers. So that's how I view that. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Excellent. We're really happy you're here. And then we also have with us Zenobia Madani. And this is not Zenobia's first appearance on QB Talks. She was with us about 3 years ago talking about the commerce tools. And so she works with QB Live and this actual program. So she's hands-on. She's the project manager. She's the person who is articulating what it is, why it is, and how it is. Is that good? Anything that you would like to add?
I'm very excited to be back with everyone today. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, and we also have Kim Amsbaugh on the line. We don't have a slide for Kim, but Kim, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. My name's Kim Amsbaugh. I've actually been at Intuit for just about 15 years, part of the corporate communications team. But one of my priorities is communicating to the accountant and bookkeeper community. So happy to be here.
All right, thank you very much for being here and for monitoring um, the panels. One of the questions that just came in the chat, by the way, is I'm going to read it out. Is this a fair comment zone with no judgment? Just wanted to know. We do want your feedback. We want to hear what people are thinking and how people are feeling, but please keep it professional and respectful. That every idea that you have, we need to address and incorporate, but we don't just want like slamming happening in the chats. So please contribute your thoughts to the conversation. Just please be professional and respectful when you do it. Okay, we are going to start with our first poll. The polls in today's webinar are actually designed to help communicate to Intuit who we are and what we're about as ProAdvisors. So these polls are actually a mechanism for providing feedback. That was very intentional in how I set this up today. So the first thing that we want to know is, what is your service model? Do you do the books and your clients don't touch them? It's all you. Your clients don't have hands-on. Do your clients do their own books and you just look at them monthly or quarterly and make sure that everything is right? Or do you not do bookkeeping at all? Your clients are coming to you for training and coaching, but you don't do bookkeeping? Or is there something else? So, or all of the above could be a something else as well, but pick kind of what your main role is there. And I think the kind of what our idea here was looking at the relationship between your client and Intuit and you and Intuit and you and your client, so we can kind of figure out the balance there. So go ahead and answer that poll question. We'll keep that open for a minute. We're getting a lot of people in the chat saying all of the above, and I didn't put an option for all of the above. So I would say whatever your majority is the one that you should pick. Like however you would like to position yourself most. If you were going to let go of all the other ones, which one would you keep? I think that would probably be the best one to pick for this. Everybody in the chat's going all of the above, all of the above. Okay. I don't have a timer on this one. So Cheska, when you feel like you're getting the slowdown, you can close the poll. And can you show us the results on that? Okay. So we have almost equally, I do the books and my clients don't touch them, and something else. And of course, the something else is a little vague, so we don't know. And I'm going to substitute the something else with all of the aboves from the chat. I think that's probably pretty fair. So what we're finding, somebody's got a, okay, thanks. So we have a combination. Most people are doing the books, about 20%. The clients are hands-on and they're doing the coaching, but the majority, the ProAdvisors are doing the books and the clients are not even touching them. All right, thank you. That is really helpful. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is have Ted and Zenobia actually explain what QB Live is, because not everybody was on that webinar and not everybody has had time to read all the Firm of the Future websites and all of that. So what I've done in this is I've actually pulled a couple slides from their presentation, but I've reformatted them so that they fit this deck style, the theme. But it's the verbatim, three of the slides that were from the presentation. So I'm going to now turn it over to Ted and Zenobia to explain to everybody what QuickBooks Live Expert Assisted is.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia, and thanks to all of you who are on the call with us. What we wanted to do was quickly reprise content that we emailed, have had in the product, as well as provided on the Firm of the Future. And we just also published that live webinar that Alicia alluded to that was several weeks back. That's now also on a link on our Firm of the Future site, so you can go to that. So what we wanted to do is quickly give you context on what we announced, and then really get into what are the questions that you have, make sure we are being clear on this. So if we back up the tape, QuickBooks Live launched, I would say 4 or 5 years ago. And what QuickBooks Live looks like today is very different from what I think a lot of folks in the community might think that it is. And the key piece that I would want to convey to all of you is that our mission at Intuit, and you've heard us talk about this a lot, it's to be powering the prosperity of our customers. And what we saw in our data was that you all, right, this community of accountants and bookkeepers and professionals who helps clients is instrumental in helping businesses succeed. And we've got programs like Alicia talked about, like the ProAdvisor program, like the Find a Pro part of that, that are critical in creating that opportunity for small business to get connected to accountants in their area to serve their needs. What we saw in our data was that 40% of folks, those small businesses, weren't ready. They got, for a variety of reasons, kind of hung up in that journey of getting connected to an accountant. They didn't know how to ask. They didn't feel like they were ready. They didn't have the ability to pay for a full service expert. That's what led to the creation of QuickBooks Live. What we announced several weeks back is a new service that represents where we have seen even more opportunity in terms of meeting businesses at that point of need. And that's what we're calling the QuickBooks Live Expert Assisted offering. And I want to be very clear, the name we actually have updated, as you can see here, QuickBooks Live Expert Assisted. It doesn't say bookkeeping. That's critical because what we saw was that customers were getting stuck in literally they log in and they don't know what to do when they get in, how to set up a chart of accounts, how to connect a bank, how to send an invoice, right? Very specific activities early on. That's what led to the development of that guided setup experience. And then other folks got further in, but then they also got stuck when they were trying to, at the month end, do reconciliation in other areas. And so what we have launched is a service aimed to help small businesses from any of those issues get unstuck. And I think the key thing that I would want to be conveying to you is this expert, this virtual expert, as we call them, is able to be summoned on demand in the QuickBooks product experience to help that small business at that point of need. They do not have access to anything in the books. They can't do anything themselves. What they can do is provide the guidance and the coaching of, hey, go here into the product. I understand. Here's what you're trying to get done. Here's how you go do that. And so that I think is a critical distinction, just to make sure everybody understands. The expert is in the books. We actually mask a bunch of the personal identification information of that small business owner. They can't see that, and they don't actually have the ability to enter in anything themselves. And so that is a high level of what they're doing. And then we're going to get to some of the most common questions on the next slide. But I think the key thing that I would want you all to hear is they're able to join at that point in time. They provide coaching on how to get that job done. And typically the kinds of questions that we see these small businesses asking, they fall into kind of two broad categories. One is, if we go back one slide, sorry, Alicia, product questions, right? And so that's like literally like, how do I use the software? Those we actually route to product experts who can answer those specific questions versus those who are, maybe asking more bookkeeping type questions. And we'll get to those on that next slide. And those we route to that right expert. So who is going to be, coming into that experience literally is dependent on the type of question that we see folks saying they've got. And so we have that routing part of the experience. I'd pause here before we go to the three most common questions. Anubi, is there anything you want to add just in terms of the experience at this moment, or do you want me to keep rolling?
I think you covered it. We can keep rolling. I think to your point, the key takeaways are the expert themselves can't be in the customer's books with Live Assisted, and they can't provide like advisory type services. So they're really around coaching, around QBO, and around bookkeeping. But at the end of the day, it's the client who is the one that's in the books, not the expert.
Perfect. And so then let's go to the next, because I think a lot, again, part of what we want to do in moments like this is to really help demystify what the service is and give you more texture of like what really are the kinds of questions that people are calling in. And so we actually reviewed our data and we saw, hey, the 3 most common call topics that you can see here. Number 1, it's about how do I complete this reconciliation, right? I've got questions regarding that set of transactions. How do I properly categorize this, et cetera. Second most common set of questions has to do around banking. Hey, I see this balance that I've got at the end of the month. I can't really make sense of my cash flow. Can you help me better understand like what's going on there? Like, why am I seeing a net income loss when I know I was profitable for the month? Things like that. And then usually that results right in terms of a third area, which is all around, the bank feeds and matching a transaction. And it's making sure folks can understand that experience. We're actually in the middle of doing a very significant revamp of that experience. It was one of the highlights of the council that we just wrapped up. So I'm excited to be rolling that out to more of you in the coming future and to our customers as well. Zanubi, I'd invite you to jump in here to provide some more specifics on, hey, within reconciliation, what are the kinds of questions that you see the experts are getting?
Yeah, sure. So overall, I would bucket the types of questions into how do I type questions. So how do I do something in the product? Why, like, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do this to do my bookkeeping? Or something doesn't make sense to me. Can you explain why QBO is showing something different than what I expected? So looking into these 3 categories for reconciliation, it could be how do I reconcile? Why do I need to reconcile? How do I get my opening balance correct? For banking, it could be how do I connect my bank and download my transactions? Why does my bank balance look different from my QBO balance? And with matching transactions, exactly what Ted was saying is how do I match a transaction I downloaded once I connected my bank with the payment I already have in QBO? So those are the types of questions, but I'd bucket them up into like the how do I type of things, or why do things look the way they do in QBO?
Perfect. And then we've got one. I want to go to the next one. As I mentioned in the beginning, right, with software. Oh, Alicia, did you just come off mute? Did you want to add anything? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. And so I think the other thing that we wanted to say is where the service experience is today is not where it's going to be in the future. And that's where this partnership and the engagement is so critical. Your passion is fantastic. And we want to hear, hey, how do we make this better to serve your needs as we look ahead? And so a couple of the things that we've been in pretty deep conversation, again, through our accountant council, and just context for those of you that are unaware, we have 20 different members of the community that have applied that we've hand selected who come to our Mountain View, California campus headquarters twice a year. And we bring a variety of teams from all over the globe to share the upcoming year of product roadmap and to really deeply embed the accountant perspective into the needs of how that experience is going to work, both for the shared customers as well as yourselves as power users. And an active area that we've been covering has been in the category of transparency, of just, hey, if this service were being provided to a customer that I have or a client that I have, I would want to know what's happening in that conversation. I want to have access to that, be able to search that, really to make sure the quality of what's being provided in the way of input is what I would judge to be at the bar, right? I'm speaking on behalf of the council, as well as really making sure from a workflow standpoint, the guidance that these live experts are providing is in alignment with the kind of workflows that I'm supporting and making sure that that works. And so we've been really working in a pilot to understand how do we do that? How do we do that better? We also heard from a number of folks, hey, this is really exciting. This is actually going to be a way that I can scale myself because it's harder than ever to find talent. You all know that better than anybody. And client needs continue to get more advanced. This is actually an opportunity for me to be referring folks into this. Could also be for those of you that have clients who maybe are more challenging to deal with. They're constantly interrupting you, asking kind of the same set of questions. Hey, this is a great way to offboard some of those folks who end up using a lot of your bandwidth or your team's bandwidth. And so folks are looking for how could we be referring clients into that, and then having that be a revenue stream for ourselves. And so that's really both the concept of a referral or revenue share program, as well as how do we incorporate this into our overall ProAdvisor preferred pricing discount structure so that you all could be offering it to your wholesale build clients.
So all these things are on the roadmap?
All these are areas I would say that we're actively investigating. And so to me, if to say something is on the roadmap would mean we have a commitment that we're going to go deliver it in a certain time period. And so I would say I wouldn't want to be saying that, because I think what we're still trying to do is really nail how do we bring that to life. But Zenobia, you as the leader who actually ran that set of conversations, both the pilot that we've been running as well as the conversations last week, would invite you to share more about what's happening there.
Yeah, so all these areas, like Ted said, we're actively exploring and trying to get onto our roadmap. So we'll definitely share timing around these once we've kind of done the scoping and really understanding what the problem is that we can solve really well and how do we want to solve that. So I would say these are amongst our top priorities right now to really bring expert assisted as a service that benefits everyone.
Okay, excellent. All right, great. So thank you for framing out kind of the whole concept behind it. Now I want to dig in a little bit more. So we're going to start with a poll, and then I have some questions to pose to Zenobia and Ted based on both questions I prepped and the things that you're asking there. So the second one is, what ideas do you have for approaching industry change appropriately? So one of them is, cut me in, turn this into a revenue stream for me. Another one is, hire me. I love answering questions. So for some of you, this is actually an opportunity to work with QB Live. And then there's kind of the non-committed. Well, I know we have to solve the bookkeeper shortage. I'm not sure this is the right answer. Or D, I'll fill in the form and send you my ideas, because obviously we're kind of limited for how we can filter, 200 people through our feedback live. So we are going to have a form at the end where you can give them, your full paragraphs or pages worth of commentary. So let us know kind of where you sit. You're on board and you'd love to, be able to include it in your services. You maybe want to be a QB Live person. You're skeptical about this. You know that we have an industry issue that needs to be solved, but you don't think this is the answer, or no comment for now, and I'll get back into it. So go ahead and answer those, and then we will start doing some Q&A. All right, so go ahead, make sure everybody takes the poll right now and picks one of those answers. I know, it's not going to encompass everybody's options, but pick which one kind of resonates with you best.
Should have brought a guitar. Alicia, do you have an instrument? You can provide a little Jeopardy music.
It's behind the sound curtain. I can't go grab it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I do have my hold music. I'll bring that up for the next poll.
Hold music deserves a special place. I'm sure you've got good hold music.
We recorded the Intuit hold music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even better.
So this is a total aside. This is me, Lisa Peterson, Jamie Campbell, all ProAdvisors playing the Intuit hold music.
Love that.
All right, let's go on. Jessica. Okay. And okay, so 31% want to turn it into a revenue stream. We've got about 10% who are interested in joining the staff. We have 34% who are not thinking that this is the right approach. And 26% who are going to communicate with you after this and have a constructive conversation. Okay, excellent. All right, so my perspective with this, and I'm going to be giving Alicia's opinion at the end of the conversation, but this is happening. We can't turn it back. This is, this service will be happening, and so what I want to do is have a constructive conversation about the ramifications, the considerations, and how we can make it a win-win situation for our clients, for the ProAdvisors, and for Intuit as well. So what I want to know is, how does Intuit think that this will actually help us? I understand how it's going to help the client because they're working on something, they have a question, they can click live support and somebody will pop up and be able to answer that question for them if they're subscribed to the service. But where does it impact us as a benefit, and how can we accommodate it in our offerings?
Yeah, I love the question. So a couple of answers, and I was able to kind of skim through some of the chat while we were doing that poll just to get caught up. And I think a key fact for everybody to hear is one of the surprises we had when we were looking at the QuickBooks Live data. This is before we made this change with this new offering. Was that if we go back, right? QuickBooks Live, right? If you were connected to an accountant, you could not see anything related to QuickBooks Live, right? That was pulled out of all of the experience. 40% of folks, in spite of that being true, were actually connected to QuickBooks Live. Specifically, this what used to be called assisted bookkeeping, right? Which is in essence most of the service that we are describing here. We've changed it as well. And so I think one of the surprises was, wow, we already are in a position where we are effectively co-firming together with you, right? That's the headline. Folks are getting benefit in both ways. So that's point one. I think point two, so this was already occurring. And the second point that I would make in terms of this is if we just zoom out, right? Again, I talked a little bit about the talent shortage. Every time I'm at an event with you all, or just one-on-one conversation, and I'm talking like what's top of mind, what I hear from you is how difficult it is to serve your current clients given the face of the industry and the talent shortage. Now, I know everybody's different. There is no average ProAdvisor in any way, and so I don't mean to say everybody has this issue, but that's what I hear very commonly. And so I think one of the first ways this can be quite helpful is it is a way for you to be augmenting your service, whether that's offboarding clients that you want to have a gracious, dismissal process, if you would, as well as providing a way to give your staff more more protected work blocks, so they aren't getting calls out of the blue when folks are getting stuck in the product experience. Right. To me, that is clearly a benefit to this service. And so those are, I think, the big ones. It would be in the category of efficiency for you as the firm and also, for your team doing the work. And I think the other thing that I would say to you is in some ways, in many ways, let me reframe, you all have been a first line of defense from a customer support perspective. Right? The customer, your client calls you rather than us. And if I think about the feedback loop when our shared customer is having an issue in the product, wouldn't you rather that feedback came into us so we go and fix that usability experience, or that, right? We sometimes call them broken windows. In fact, we're doing a big care jam right now where we've got teams of engineers across the globe surging on over 200 different issues that we've identified that you all are telling us you need fixed, right? That kind of closed loop model means the product experience gets better, and you aren't that line of call defense. And said we're getting the feedback firsthand, then we can go do something with it. So I think those are a couple of the ways that really make it better. And I just hit the first bullet. Alicia, I know you've got that second one, but let me pause there.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to put in there, like, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it, that if you're going to have people on the front line seeing what the software is doing and how people are using it, they're going to see the struggles people are having with either features that aren't working or bugs or little anomalies, and then they can have a direct channel to communicating that. So this can improve the user experience.
Exactly.
One more thing, if I can add, is
Yeah,
so
please.
we've heard from accountants for sure about this. Help them with these questions that I don't want to deal with, or I want to preserve my time for higher value add services. I think the other thing we've heard also is prep my client to work with me. And so that might be help them clean up something in the product or explain what debit and credit is to them because they really don't understand it. And I've tried 3 times to explain to them. So I think there's a little bit of also help my client be ready to work with me better by answering these types of questions or helping them in certain areas.
Yeah. If one of our clients signs up for this service, are we going to be notified? Is there going to be a way for us to know?
So we're still working on the right way to notify you through QBOA, so QuickBooks Online Accountant. The way you can see this now is if you're in your client's books, you can always see their billing and subscriptions. So you can always see what they have subscribed to in the portfolio of products that they have with QBO. So bookkeeping would show, not bookkeeping, sorry, expert assisted would show up there as a subscription that they have.
Okay, so at least we can see it from there. Although that might be something for
Exactly.
you to think about, is that if somebody signs up and they have an accountant user attached, sending an email out would probably really help us out.
Exactly. We're digging into the right way to share that information, whether that's an email or whether that's within your client dashboard within QBOA so that you have easy access to that information.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Would folks want to get another email from us? I'm curious.
As much as we get some automatic emails that we can't do anything with, I think this is one that would be helpful.
Okay.
Because it's part of the transparency of the process. Okay. Now, another one of the questions that are coming in kind of fast and furious is how come this is being added to the interface even for attached accountant files? Traditionally, if there was an accountant attached, QuickBooks Live was invisible, but isn't this, people are like, you're marketing to my clients. So can you address that?
Yes. And that's actually why we wanted to be so clear and leading from the front in all of the communication is this is a change, right? We recognize that. And again, if I go back to the first data point that I shared, which is we saw, in spite of the fact that we weren't offering it, 40% were connected. It was a behavior that was happening, right? There's those of you that remember our founder, Scott Cook, right? One of the phrases he's really spread across the organization is savoring the surprise. When we come across data that we weren't anticipating, dig into the why, right? When we dug into the why, we saw there were a set of needs that small businesses were having that they were getting served through this service that was complementary to what they were also getting from their bookkeeper, from their accountant. So that's point one. And again, that was 40%. I think the second part is if we look into the data that we have, right? If I go back to the mission of having our small businesses being successful, we know they're more connected when they're connected to you on average, right? But what I would also say is that, and I'm sure you all can see this too, is that not everybody is actually using their accountant the way they should. And I think sometimes the accountants aren't as active in their clients' files as maybe the client would want them to be either. And so when we think about providing the service to all, the idea, first, number one, it's complementary. Number two, it's providing both you and your client with data and information that help move that work flow forward. And so we established 3 principles. Number one, we wanted it to be complementary to the advisory value-added services that you all provide. The second is we wanted to make sure that it was valuable to our shared customers. And then the third is that it provides value to you. And so that is where, because we were comfortable on all three, that's why we rolled it out. And then as I have talked about, and Zenobia brought some more texture to, that's also how we're continuing to evolve the service of what else needs to be true. How do we build that out into QBOA as well to provide you what you need to have more visibility, and so that we can also be improving the service.
Okay. One of the things that I've seen happening is that clients are also getting calls from account managers, and then they're like, well, why did I get a call? And then they call us, and now we have to go figure out what's happening. That, in business, good business is selling and upselling to your already existing clients. It's way cheaper, just business-wise, to add services to an existing client than it is to obtain a new client. So from a business strategy for Intuit's shareholders, that's excellent. Where it gets awkward for us is that as a professional pro advisor, as a professional bookkeeper, we've already kind of picked which subscription service is the right one for them, and is this payroll service the right one for them, and is the merchant services run for them, or is there a good solid reason why they're using a third-party app? And so I think what a lot of people are worried about is that Intuit is going to make inappropriate suggestions that don't take into consideration the bigger picture for what's really happening on the boots on the ground for that particular client.
Yeah, there's a lot to what you just said, Alicia. And so Intuit is, I've been at Intuit now 7 years, and I continue to be impressed by how we are truly a principle-driven organization, and that really animates how we make a decision. Again, Brad Smith, right, our former CEO, used to say, hey, anybody in the company should be able to read the set of principles by which a decision was made and be able to say, I understand why the decision was made, and I can appreciate the logic and the facts that were used. Even if I disagree, I can understand that. And so if I go back to principles, the first principle that we have is we believe that our customers should have choice when it comes to the solutions they have. And so if you all think about in the get to know me flow, one of the first questions we ask a new business is, are you connected to an account? And then if they say, no, I'm not, we actually provide the ability for a person to go, that small business to go to find a pro advisor, as well as saying, or we can help you with live. Right? We provide both, principle of choice in the product experience. The reason we ask that first question of, are you connected to an accountant, is we also have a principle of honoring the existing relationship. And we know how fundamental all of you are. As a number of you have been talking in the chat, right? You all had the relationship with your client, and you introduced us to that relationship. And we want to honor that. And so we have principles of choice and also honoring existing relationships. As you can imagine, those two principles can come into conflict at times, right? And I think this example, Alicia, that you're providing of, we have a direct sales force who are calling into customers who are connected to an accountant. And I think there's an opportunity there for us to, A, I'm not sure how widespread that is, right? B, what I would say is, there's a third principle that we have on the accountant side of the business, which is we want to tell all of you first, because we know kryptonite for you is for us to do something that you're unaware of that then makes you look like you don't know what's going on, because you all are the QuickBooks experts. And so we have the principle of proactively telling you a change before we tell a small business. And I think here is a good example of, we need to think about how are we informing accountants when we are calling their clients, right, who are our shared customers. How do we do that in a way? And I will tell you all, I've been working in the accountant space for Intuit for the last 4 years. And yeah, I know we're getting close on time. Sorry, Alicia, let me just finish this thought.
Okay, sure.
Is that it is really, really challenging to get the word out to everybody like we want to. We send emails, we put things up on Firm of the Future, right? We've got a very active social media team, and we have, right, a team of leaders of the community, Alicia, like, such as yourself, that we want to make sure you all are hearing what we're doing to get the word out. And yet still people don't know, right? I know that somebody in a chat was calling out a change that was made, and it was like, that was made a year ago. Right. And so in spite of that, so I would love to hear your ideas of what are additional ways that we can be getting the word out that both scale and are appropriate, right? Because I think email, I don't know about you, but inboxes are really difficult to manage. So I know we got to move forward, Alicia. So I would love the feedback on how else could we be getting the word out to you better? Because that is something we are asking ourselves every day, candidly.
Okay. So I've heard AI mentioned a few times around this, and what's the role of AI in this service? Now, let me just, for sake of time, see if what I'm thinking is right, and then you can let me know. But it was kind of like we were saying earlier, that if you can gather information about the pain points and the solutions and how to address different kinds of transactions, that you can build that into an information database so that down the line an AI model can be built around it. Is that in the right direction?
I'm gonna let Zenobia, who's our product expert, jump in on this.
So I think it's less of, at least the way we're integrating AI into our service today is a little bit different. So maybe I can give an example to help clarify there. So the way we've been leveraging AI and testing with it has been, how do we better support our experts in providing the best service to our customers? And then since then, we've been talking to accountants about their pain points with expert assisted. So how do we then leverage what we're building for our experts and extend that to accountants also? So the example Ted shared earlier is, we heard loud and clear that transparency into what a customer and an expert talk about is really important. We're testing AI to create call summaries for experts so that they know what was discussed on the last call and can provide that continuity of conversation with the customer every time they call in. But as we're building that with AI, we're now exploring, how do we make that call summary available to both the customer and to you as accountant, so all three have that transparency into what was covered in that call. And have that continuity and that consistency of working, whoever is working with that customer has that continuity from what's already been discussed or talked about.
That's cool. I really like that idea that we can see where they are and where they're going. So great. Thank you. Okay. So I want to move into the next segment, which is best practices. That what can we as pro-advisors do so that this is a constructive move forward for everybody? And so one of the things that I really want to do is provide some context, that this is not just Intuit making decisions. This is kind of where the whole accounting industry is going. We know we have a talent shortage. We know we have a bookkeeping shortage. And we have companies like Bench that are providing outsourced bookkeeping that are a lot more automation and AI, and they don't get the personal touch that we provide. There's a lot of outsourcing to overseas bookkeepers. We have AI coming into play. So from my perspective, this is in one of Intuit's goals to fill in the gap in the industry. And that this, we have to move forward. We as pro-advisors have to pivot, just because this is the way we've been doing things for 10, 20, 30 years. Things are different. We have to move with it. So that's one of my thoughts about it. Now, for those of you who provide this service already, and you're hearing this going, yeah, but what about me? Why aren't you sending people to the pro-advisor profiles? One thing that you are going to want to build into this is make sure that if your customer sees an ad or QB Live suggests a product, that they take that question and come to you to see if that's a good idea or not. This is an opportunity for you to learn about additional services, but I encourage you to train your clients that you are still the go-to for the decision making, and that they, like, if they get an ad, they shouldn't just go sign up for something without checking with you and making sure it fits into your bigger picture for them. If you are feeling price conscious, that you're like, okay, well, why would they pay me hundreds of dollars if they can pay these folks $50? They're not doing the bookkeeping. It's just a Q&A service. And if it seems so easy to the person, like, oh, it's so easy that why don't I just do this myself? You made it look easy. It's your expertise that you bring to the table. And so it's really important that you find ways of communicating your value to the client. And one of the best ways that you can do that is really reinforce your emotional connections and your personal connections with your clients, and make sure that you're developing an interpersonal relationship with them so that they know that you're the human on their side and that this is a service, not a substitute for you. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Nope. Okay. All right, then I'll keep going. So along those lines, some things that you can do to maintain your connection with your clients so that you are still the primary point of contact is make sure that you're in huge communication. You know, if you're fixing things in their books, make sure that you are communicating that to the customer. Make sure that you're the person providing the training for their specific workflows that are specific to their industry and their company's needs, which is not something that this QB Live service can do. You know, make sure, you know, send out a newsletter, maybe even find an article. You know, if you read something in the news that relates to your client's industry, go ahead and forward it to them, just so that you're maintaining that external relationship and building that external relationship, so that QB Live remains the supplementary service and not a substitute for what you bring to the table. Okay. So a little bit more about my perspective on this. Actually, before I do this, there are one of the issues that I'm seeing come up in repeatedly is about I'm actually going to go back a slide here. There's a lot of feedback from the ProAdvisor community that the quality of the work that comes out of QuickBooks Live is inconsistent, that there are some people who are absolutely excellent at what they're doing, but there are a lot of people in QuickBooks Live where maybe this is their first bookkeeping job. They're coming to you for the training, and they're coming to you for a foot in the door into the industry. And I know that one of the things that QuickBooks Live will do is, if there's an incorrect entry, instead of going back and finding out what the source of that is, it'll just go into an adjustments category. And so what we're experiencing, seeing files that QuickBooks Live has worked on, is that sometimes they're actually creating bad data, or sometimes creating more work for us. And so that's something that I request that you guys take a look at. Zenobia, you're in a perfect position for this, for really, you know, looking at the training and support that people are getting to make sure that good data is coming out of the service.
Yeah, and I know we're getting close on time. Because I was involved before I was in the accountant part of the business on QuickBooks Live, one of the things I heard very early on was all around these set of quality issues from members like yourselves. And what blew me away was, first of all, the number of people that I was told were QuickBooks Live customers versus the ones when I went and got the name and checked it, who actually had been customers. It was not 100%, right? So the first thing I've learned is, like, be skeptical. The next thing I learned was a number of those folks, they were messy when they got, and they quit before we could do anything for them. So I think part of this, just to balance the perspective, right? Can we get better? 100%. And I would say, let's be appropriately skeptical about some of the stuff that we're hearing, and, like, ask some of the hard questions, because I learned I needed to. Second thing I would share is, we as Intuit need to do a better job of really clarifying how we think about quality. And we've heard from a number of members of the community that the standards that we are using to run QuickBooks Live are actually great. They should be publicized. And we actually have a standards team that is staffed by people who not only are certified and experts, but they are truly the industry experts. And so I think we're looking for opportunities of how can we publish and share some of those standards and make that very clearly not only part of how we train our live experts, but also how could that become something that we help standardize this space of bookkeeping, right? Because there aren't the same set of standards as there are with the tax space. So again, that's on us. And then I think, and I know we're out of time, I think the third thing would be, you're absolutely right. There are definitely issues where we have not delivered, and that's on us. And again, that's where we need to be doing better. So I want to own all three parts of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's a really great area for you guys as this develops to really pay attention to. It's the standards. Like if you've got a corporate credit card with subcards, you could have every rep handling that in every different way and coming up with like Intuit's way of handling that so that we know what you guys are suggesting would actually be really helpful to us. Okay, so in our last 3 minutes, now you're going to just hear what Alicia has to say about all of this. So, 5 years ago when they made the announcement about QuickBooks Live Bookkeeping, we were all freaked out because on the surface, it absolutely seemed like a competitive service. And we were afraid that we would be put out of work. And the kind of the opposite was true. Some companies got the help that we needed, and we are still full to the gills with clients. There's I would venture to say there's almost nobody on this call or very few people on call who have openings and trying to find clients. So I see this as a paid support line. Like we've been complaining that when you call support, you are on for hours and you don't get good answers. The support line it was designed for product support and staffed by people who didn't know accounting. This is a helpline staffed by people who know accounting, so that they're answering the accounting questions as opposed to the support, the product isn't working questions. So that's kind of what I think of it as a paid support line. You pay money, you get a better level of support that actually knows the answers to those how-to questions. This is actually kind of that same slide. So that's how I'm framing it in my head is, do I have clients who it would be nice for them to be able to pay $50 a month and just get some fast Q&A in product training? So I also want to enforce that it's not end-to-end training. It's not company-specific information. It's really how to answer a specific question. It's the kind of questions that you don't want to spend your time answering necessarily. And it's really good for businesses that are too small to afford bookkeepers. There's people who spending $100 a month is a lot of money. And so this gives them a low end support level that they can afford. And for people who are looking for additional bookkeeping training and their first clients, send them into QB Live. They should get jobs with QB Live because they will get the training and the experience that they need. And so it's a foot in the door for beginning bookkeepers. So I like it for that as well. But that comes back to what I was saying earlier about making sure that QB Live people are getting really good, solid training. So while there is no such thing as a dumb question, it doesn't have to be you who answers it. Okay, so to bring it all home, we have one more poll. I'm going to leave this slide up while we do the poll. So Cheska, if you could run it. I have on your screen a feedback form. There's a QR code to it. This is where all the comments that you were putting in the Q&A and in the chat that I did not have time to incorporate into the conversation, please go to that feedback form and put in that feedback. I also put up a link to my blog where I did my own writing and my own thought leadership about this. And I talked not just about the service, but about all of us as a community. And in that blog, there's also a link to the podcast episode that I did with Hector so that you can listen in and kind of get my bigger picture. I have lots and lots of thoughts that we couldn't squeeze into an hour here. So now that you have heard from Ted and Zenobia and Kim, and from my perspective, what do you think about it now? Do you think that it's a good idea that will provide better support? Do you still not totally understand why it's needed? does it really truly directly threaten your entire livelihood? Like, is this going to put you out of business? Let me know. And if you have mixed feelings and you're not quite sure yet and you want to see it after it's up and running, go ahead and put that in too. So this is kind of just taking the temperature to know where people are at after participating or after hearing all of this. So you've got 2 links up on your screen. Please do take the get these 2 links down, and we're going to keep you for 1 extra minute at the end. Everybody answer that poll so that I can go on to my next slide. And okay, while that poll is running, since we are out of time, I just wanted to thank Ted and Zenobia and Kim for joining me here today for this conversation. You know, it's kind of a challenging conversation, but we have to do it, have it as a community, because you know, we're not fighting over slices of the pie. We're baking a bigger pie. We're trying to bring prosperity to everybody, the pro advisors, our clients, and to Intuit as well. Go buy stock. I also just want to point out, thank you all for attending. I host this. I'm not paid to do it. It is volunteer on my part. So if you want to support me and thank me for these conversations and trainings that we've been having and will continue to have, please head over to Amazon and buy my book. I wrote a book on how to use QuickBooks Online that is designed for beginners. It's the kind of book you put in your business owner's hands where they say, like, how do I pay an invoice? And they turn to the page and it tells them how to pay an invoice. And so I don't have a direct link to it, but if you go to Amazon and just search for my name or search from QuickBooks Online from setup to tax time, it will come up. And Cheska, can you give us the results of that survey so we can close this down? All right, so we've got 22% thinking that it's going to improve support. We have 13% who still aren't sure what problem it's solving. We do have some people where it is a direct substitute for the work that they are doing. And most of us are on the fence and want to see how it plays out. So thank you all for that as well. So I want to keep the conversation open, use that feedback form, anything that you can do to make this work for everybody. It's not going away. It's not, you know, so we want to make sure that it's, somebody asked for the QR code again. There's the QR code again. So let's continue the constructive conversation and let's make this a great service for our clients.
Alicia, thanks so much for having us. Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Right before we close it out, I'll just put one last poll. If you want that CPE certificate, we just need you to answer this one real quick. Okay, I'll leave it out while I'm closing this out. Thanks again so much, Alicia, Ted, Zenobia, and everybody for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us. And right before we close out the webinar, answer the certificate poll, as well as a few reminders. We do have a variety of webinars for you every month, including next week's Future Forward Integrations and Workflows with 8 webinars in over 2 days, where each is eligible for a CPE certificate. And you can check those out on our educational webinars page on our site that I sent out in the chat. And also don't forget to check out and subscribe our YouTube channel and newsletters so you do not miss out on news and updates that impact today's accounting professional. And remember to enter a post-webinar survey that will pop up after the webinar so that we over at Insightful Accountant can further improve our webinars and really give you guys what you want. All right, well, thanks again so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thank you again, Ted and Zenobia and Alicia, for so much of the information that we got today. Really helpful.
All right,
All right.
great. Thank you, Cheska. And we will have the PDF for everybody as well.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. We'll see you in the next QB Talk. Bye.
Bye.